right, everybody who is here, thank you so much for coming to this session before spring break, a break. And hopefully what we talk about today will not only help you in the meantime, but send you off well for spring break, and then we will pick back up afterwards. For those of you who are here in this virtual room and are new, this is your first time doing this live session, we always start with a sit, which is a way to settle ourselves from wherever you were before you got on this call to now. And also just want to put it out there that whenever I have sessions, whether that's live, in person, or virtually, paper and pencil are always recommended for some of the reflections that we will always be doing in our time together. And so a couple of other things, paper and pencil, we'll start with a sit. So how it goes is it's usually a sit to settle ourselves. I will do a talk around the concept today of finding or settling emotions and finding calm, although if I could do it over again, I would actually rename it Finding Calm and Harmony, because you're going to notice that that's kind of a theme of mine that is woven throughout this talk today. And then throughout the talk, we'll do a couple of practices and then leave you with some tools and hopefully feeling more empowered. So yeah, without further ado, can everybody, Erin, I know we can't talk because you can't hear me, but you're big on the screen. Am I supposed to be big on the screen? Does everybody see me or see Erin? Can you just like put a J up if you can see me with your finger? Because I can't hear. JJ, okay, all right, just want to make sure. All right, let's get settled. So for us, our sit, you are going to be invited to let go of whatever's in your hands, to just sort of release yourself from your phones if you can, if you have them by you, if you can even turn it over, silence it just for 2 or 3 minutes. Because, this time is for you to just slow down and experience some downtime. Also, when we do a sit, it is helpful to, if you'd like, turn off your video. Sometimes people feel a little uncomfortable doing a sit and with themselves on their camera. So this is a time for you to turn it, you're welcome to turn it off if you'd like, if that makes you feel more comfortable. And I will begin us. So I always start with my bell, and once the sound of the bell is gone, I will continue to guide us in a relaxation practice, a settling practice. And so if you could just start by finding a posture or a position that feels comfortable and still to you, letting yourself settle into that. If you have noises going on in your house, it's part of your experience. We'll kind of do a practice during this time to settle into the noise if there is some. I have some in my house. I can hear my children. But go ahead and find a posture that you can be comfortable in and still, letting your eyes close if you feel safe to do so, or letting your eyes focus on a point on the floor beneath you or your hands if you don't feel comfortable closing them. And I will ring my bell, and when the sound of the bell is gone, I will continue guiding you. So let's arrive here in this virtual room, this time for self-care, bringing awareness to your body, your posture. Know you are sitting. Think about where you are right now. What room are you in? What seat are you in? Remembering where you are in this time. Feel the weight of your body in the chair that you're in or wherever you're sitting. And go ahead and start to listen mindfully to the sounds around you. Maybe even stretch your listening outside of your homes or wherever you are. What do you hear near and far? Just name it. So now that we're more settled into where we are, let's settle into being where we are by starting with a scan to release whatever tension or sensations we're holding on to, softening our forehead and our eyes, loosening the jaw, dropping your tongue down, letting your face just fall into relaxation. Loosening the shoulders, feeling the weight of them drop down a little bit. Feeling your back against the chair you're in, or maybe just sitting up without support. What do you notice? Tension, tightness, maybe nothing at all. And just breathe into that. Softening your belly, feeling the weight of your arms wherever they fall. Bringing attention to your hands and your fingers and what sensations you feel there, hot or cold, maybe tingling, pulsating, maybe just the physical touch of whatever your hands are attaching to. And feeling your bottom and whatever seat you're in, relax those muscles. When you relax your belly muscles simultaneously with the muscles in your bottom, your body automatically becomes a little more relaxed and weighted down by gravity. You start to feel that. Notice the chair or whatever you're seated in holding you up. Feeling your legs in whatever posture or position they're holding, the top of your legs, your knees, your calves, your ankles. Just noticing. And take a breath into that. Feeling your feet on the floor or cross-legged or propped up, whether they are barefoot or in socks or shoes. Whatever it is, notice the sensations there. Just one last scan. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, soften your belly and the muscles in your backside. Just relax into this space, and we'll shift our attention to our breath. Noticing as you breathe in the cold air, and as you breathe out, it's warm or neutral air, whether it's breathing out of your nose or your mouth. And we're going to sit here for a couple of seconds, maybe to a minute. And you will find that your mind wanders. It will happen. And that's okay. If you notice that your mind is wandering and you bring it back, that's beautiful. So for the next few seconds, I'll be quiet, allowing you and inviting you to notice your breath as you breathe in and notice your breath as you breathe out. If it helps, you can say breathing in and breathing out as you do so. And when the sound of the bell is rung, that's the invitation to come back into the room. So let's focus on our breath. Bring your attention back if you need. If your attention has wandered, come back to your breath. All right, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Makes us all really sleepy, I'm sure. I said this the last time, I think in the Q&A section, but somebody mentioned that they get tired every time we do a practice like that. And I want to say that if you think about it, the only time your body is ever really that still without stimulation is when you're going to sleep. And that I'm not counting the looking at your phone or watching TV before you sleep. I'm talking about those moments where there's no stimulation and your brain thinks, oh, this is rest time. So something to think about. All right, I'm gonna start with my talk about settling emotions and finding calm, or harmony is my word of this time. So I'm gonna spend a little time talking about that. So how do we get ourselves back in harmony when we get worked up, stressed out, anxious? So let's talk for a minute about what harmony means, and really, by definition, what it means, also what it means to me in regards to the work that I do and offer. But by definition, harmony means the quality of forming like a pleasing and consistent whole. And if you think about it in reference to music, it's finding a rhythm. A more intense version of harmony is what is called flow. And actually, I think probably a lot of you as educators are familiar with this concept, because what flow is it's this moment or period of time where you're totally in the zone, you're focused, you're engaged, you may even lose track of time. Raise your hand if you've ever had that in teaching, ever. Like just a flow of like being in it, and like it's feeling good and it's going well and you're totally engaged. Or in life, it could be something in life. So back to the state of harmony. I like this word over balance. A lot of teachers ask me about work-life balance. And I'm here to tell you that I don't really have an answer for that in this profession. What I can say to you is that balance feels like I have to do. I don't love it. It makes me feel like I have to give each part of my life or experiences equal attention. And I feel like that's a lot of a responsibility to carry. The idea of balance for me also feels like I'm only living when I'm outside of work, and I stop living when I am working. And that doesn't work for me. I feel like a good working life is really important to happiness, feeling engaged and empowered by your work. Not all the time, but a lot of the time, right? And balance makes me, sometimes I have to compartmentalize things, but I just feel like it means we have to be so separate. We think of a scale. But harmony is about finding a rhythm, being able to Aaron and I were talking about this, and and if she were to say this, I couldn't hear her if she did, but she was saying that she compares it to like a heartbeat. So this idea of like up and down and up and down, and sometimes it's really fast and sometimes it's, neutral, and sometimes it's really slow, but these ups and downs. And harmony is also about having the ability to handle life's, different areas. When we cultivate this idea of harmony in our lives, or calm state, it gives space for us to be constant learners and constant growers. And it creates a space where, calm is possible, is obtainable. And it's important to understand that when we create harmony or cultivate harmony, or a calm state or a calm presence for ourselves, we have to pursue that gently and with kindness. It's almost like a kind of sense of slowing down. It's funny, I'm sitting here, I'm going to say calm like 500 times. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when people are like, oh, my husband does this just to mess with me. He'll be like, oh, calm down. And it makes me a little crazy when people say that to me, but telling someone to calm down and trying to find your own state of calm or harmony is different. But when we are not in a state of harmony, and we are probably more likely to be moving through our life unaware of what we're doing, what we're saying, how we're being. And when that happens, a lot of things happen. We tend to be more reactive to people and events. We feel more upset or worried. We focus on the stories that we tell ourselves around difficult emotions, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about throughout this talk. We allow our strong and unpleasant emotions to control our thoughts and our behaviors. We get unsettled and agitated. That happens to me a lot. And we even start to blame others and ourselves for these emotions and experiences. And all of this drains our energy. So these unpleasant experiences and emotions cause what we call emotional dysregulation. What that is it's our inability to control or regulate what we do about our emotions. And I know we've kind of gotten away from harmony, and now we will circle back around to how to create a sense of harmony and a sense of calm. But I want to indulge this talk about emotions because it's really important to continue to understand that emotions are usually at the base of everything that so much of what we say and do. So I want to say this to you. Feelings are not facts. They are important. They need to be acknowledged and tended to, but they are not facts. Sometimes we treat them as such. An emotion is always right. We have these emotions. They happen whether we want them to or not, and they are right and valid. But the story behind them may not be. Emotional intelligence, building that understanding, intelligence of my emotions, building that is where we have the ability to embrace emotion while at the same time challenging whatever thoughts or stories are coming up behind it or supporting that emotion. And challenging does not mean a bad thing. It's more like inviting, is what I'm feeling about what's happening to me, is it true? I want to acknowledge that usually the story around an emotion is important to us. That doesn't make it helpful though. And so how do we settle difficult emotions and clearly understand, in a logical way, the stories that we tell ourselves about our emotions so that we can slow down and feel better? I'm going to get my little quote here because I want to read you a quote by this guy named Daniel Goleman. He's an expert and I love him so much. I listen to so much of things that he says and does. He's very wise. But he says the emotional brain responds to an event more quickly than the thinking brain. So our emotions, or our emotional brain, I guess, is the first thing that comes up before we even think about what to do. And that just shows how strong our emotions play a role in this. And I want to say this is all about controlling your mind control. That sounds really, I don't even know, silly maybe, but being able to control our mind where our thoughts go is such a skill, such a superpower. And we don't want our emotions to rob us of or cost us our memories, our relationships, or our ability to feel happiness. At this point, I'm gonna stop because I would like to give you processing time of things that I say. So this is where your paper and pencil comes into handy. And I invite you to write down what has stuck with you. What are you hearing from what I'm saying that resonates for you right now? So when we write down our reflections, we are helping imprint it more and code it more into our memories and into our being. So take a minute to write that down. And if you have questions, you can also write these things down in the chat box if you like. I like to see what people are thinking and saying and what questions they have. So I'll just be quiet for like 30 seconds. So a question was put out about how we can decipher between which emotions are true and which are not. So I'm going to say, great question, but all emotions matter. All emotions are true, but it's what we think about them, what we think about how they affect us, that we need to be focusing on whether or not that's true. So what I mean by that is, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is our emotions are valid. So if I'm angry at a person and I think, gosh, what happened was we got into a disagreement. They want to do something a certain way. I want to do something a certain way, and we're not jiving. What I need to think about it that is true is if I overreact, if I start to cut them down or yell at them or overreact out of my own personal anger, and then I rethink about that story and I think, God, this person always does this to me. This is so ridiculous. This always happens. Why can't we just, and we start doing all of this, I remember the story this way. You remember it that way. This is what I said. No, you didn't. And we get into this kind of battle either with someone else or ourselves. And so it's really not about whether an emotion is valid or true. It's about what is happening around that emotion, what's causing that emotion, what happened because of it that we need to kind of pay more attention to. Yeah. And pausing, all emotions matter. And if we don't acknowledge that with awareness and with skills and strategies, and effectively acknowledge them, then they creep up on us in very unexpected ways. So thank you for that question, Kira. And thank you, Kate, for writing your lovely, even if I feel an emotion, I need to wait to think about them and decide how I want to frame it. That's exactly what I'm offering here. So, before you can implement a tool or a strategy to create harmony in a moment, to create a sense of calm in a moment, we must have awareness of emotions, particularly ones that we experience a lot. And in just a little bit, I'm going to invite a slide. But first, I want to tell you that this is part of learning how to control where our mind goes. When we get to know our emotions. So in a minute, you're going to see a slide we're going to do a practice called What's Your Emotional Playlist. So you're going to need your paper and pencil again, friends. You just plan on writing. You can do this in your head, but again, I'm going to reiterate that what you write down is more encoded and processed into your own experience and memories. Okay. So if you want that to really go, then that's where we go with it. So this is called What's Your Emotional Place. So here's what we're going to do before I show you the slide. There's a list of emotions to give you like a range. If your emotions that you feel a lot, this is what we're doing. We're identifying 3 emotions that you feel most often. I'm going to give you a list that is not exhaustive, but it is there to help you kind of think about, emotions. If the word or emotion comes up that's not on the list, fine, great. This is just a helping tool to help you kind of not have to spin your wheels so much trying to come up with words. What you're going to do is you're going to pick 3 emotions and you're going to write them down. And then I am going to invite some questions for you to answer about each one of those emotions. I'm going to write the questions in the chat box because I did not want to put them on the slide. That was just going to be so much on the slide. And so I'm going to say them to you, and then I'm going to write them down. And I'd like you to spend several minutes doing this, thinking about the emotion, befriending it, getting to know it in the way that I'm going to support that through these prompts I'll give you in just a minute. So let's look at the slide for what's your emotional playlist, and you're picking 3. And so Erin is my slide person. I can't see the whole slide because of the people, but you know what you can do is you can move the people to the left side of the screen where the question is, and that way you can see all the words. So that's what I had to do. My people heads were over here and I moved them over here. So just letting you know that that's a little tip. Okay, I'm going to be quiet for about 30 seconds, and I want you to find 3 emotions either on this list or in your head and write them down. Ready, set, go. All right. I'm doing this too, by the way. I am not, I'm engaging in the same thing that you're doing. I've already done it, but I'm going to do it again just to kind of let you know that I practice what I preach. So, okay. So you should have 3 emotions by now, or 3 feelings. So here's what I'm inviting you to think about for each one of these emotions. I'm inviting you to get to know them. When does this emotion happen? Maybe there's multiple answers to that. I'll write it all down in the chat box. Just hear me for now. When does it happen? What does this emotion look like? I mean, where does it show up in your body? Like, what does it look like? Does it look like, just think about what you might look like in this emotion. I know that when I'm angry that I am not, I know what I look like. I haven't looked in the mirror, but I can imagine. What does the emotion feel like? You don't have to answer all of these. These are just questions to think about. Who is involved with this emotion and why is another question. So I'm going to write these questions down in the chat box. You can just start right now with thinking about when does each of these emotions, you're going to write about each one separately. Just pick one for now. So mine first one is anxious. So I'm going to just spend some time answering when does this happen, and all the other questions I'm going to put in the chat box, and then go through each emotion. You're going to take a few minutes to do this. And remember, the more you take this seriously, the more you engage with each practice, the more you get out of it. Okay? I don't make these things randomly up, I promise. All right, here I go. Writing them down. So when I write, what does it sound like? This is where I'm saying if you maybe say things when you have these emotions. And even if you just kind of, I want to take probably like 2 more minutes. If you just want to even you may not get through all three, and that's okay. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Maybe you know very clearly what your emotions are and you can answer all the questions just like that. But we are going to take another minute to honor that. So, this would be a good time for you to just kind of look at it again and just think if there's anything else that you need to kind of intentionally think about regarding emotions. All right, take about 30 more seconds and then we're going to move on. So, again, the more you engage with this, the more you'll get out of it. All right. So, as you are finishing this, if you are still kind of creating your emotional playlist, I'm going to kind of start to talk. Um, just say a few more words before we do a few more practices. It is important to befriend our emotions, like I said earlier, and build awareness around them so that we are more familiar when they show up. When we are more familiar and knowledgeable friends, we are less defensive. We are more in control because we have taken the time ahead of time to recognize the things that show up for us. And for me, there is always a moment of choice. So if something bad happens, I get super irritated. My body has this like sensational response. So, like, let me take one of my emotions, for example, is agitation. And I noticed that agitation and anxiety kind of look very similar. But if I'm agitated and anxious, um, my stomach gets tight. I start to like get really jittery and like just tight everywhere in my face. And so something bad happens and I have this sensational response. And then I have like less than a few seconds to choose. Either do I want to do what I always do in this state of mind, or do I want to be different here? And it is so hard. And a lot of the times I'll go with what I'm used to, my old habits, my old bad habits of maybe yelling or, getting like really quick and saying something hurtful. Sometimes I will choose a different choice and it always feels good to do that. But I am aware now that I have that choice. I don't always necessarily make the better choice, but it's there. And when we do make the choice that's not something we're proud of, we have to give ourselves grace always. But it just feels so good. But our brains too, friends, play a major role in this. And stressors in life can be brutally overwhelming. But what's more overwhelming is our brain's tendency to send us into reactivity mode. And this is done through like a connection of systems in our brain that work together to do things like pull up memories from similar experiences around those emotions, or that also tries to keep us safe when it thinks we're in danger. If my heart's beating fast and my belly's tight, my fists are tight, my brain thinks I'm in danger. And so it reacts to try and keep me safe. And this is an idea of mental habits that we create for the reactivity. Some are good though, but in the sense of unpleasant, difficult emotions. And again, we need to be able to have mind control, this idea of knowing where to take ourselves and our thoughts in order to slow this process that our brain does down. And maybe even it's possible to retrain our brains to have new, more effective habits of mind. So let's bring it back to this idea of cultivating harmony when these things happen. harmony does not mean life without stress. I know I said that earlier, but we can achieve a calm state or a calm moment and be in tune with what is going on around us or within us without being knocked over by it. So let me just tell you what, I have a slide here that kind of just invites what calm and harmony can do for us. Erin's my slide girl because she's in charge here, so she knows when to put these slides. So this is kind of what happens when we give ourselves an opportunity for harmony and calm. It's all good things. It helps us spend more time on what's important to us, increases our hope, our sense of hope, our ability to forgive. It develops our intuition or our wisdom, our wisdom about like what we feel like might be the best plan of action moving forward. This doesn't feel good. I need to back away. This feels good. I'm going to do this, and being able to develop that. It enables us to relax and rejuvenate, even enjoy ourselves, be proud of ourselves, restores, our good health, because if we don't honor emotions, friends, if we don't take care of ourselves, it turns into physical health, challenges. Chronic stress over time, when it's not effectively managed and cared for, turns into health challenges. It helps our concentration. When we're slowed down, when we're more quiet, we are able to focus more easily. When we're in a state of chaos, it feels like this. I always tell kids when I teach mindfulness to kids, I say, this is what chaos feels like. It's an anger. It's like a quick fan in your face. And overall, it makes us feel happier. So we're going to practice 2 breathing techniques now. One is deep breathing. And maybe a lot of you are familiar with it, but I'm just going to revisit what deep breathing feels like. LeBron James, he is partnered up with Calm, which is an app that I use for mindfulness. And he does a series with them on mind training or training the mind. I can't remember what it's called, but I love it. It's great. And what he says is, in relation to deep breathing, is that your body is like a machine and breath is like the electricity that keeps it going. And he was talking about how deep breaths just tell your body, like, everything's cool. Like, let's just move forward amicably, peacefully, chill, instead of emotions managing us, I'm managing my emotions. So a deep breath, and I feel like it's important to talk about this explicitly, is typically it's breathing in. For those of us that have a hard time breathing in our nose, you can do it through your mouth, but it's just taking in an in breath through your nose typically, and then breathing out of your nose or mouth with a longer out breath than in breath. So the longer out breath is the most effective part of deep breathing, because what that's doing is that deep breathe, that deep out breath, that long out breath, allows for the body to, that's the part that allows the body to like physiologically slow down and slow down the functions of our brain when we are sent into reactivity mode. So it kind of looks like this. I breathe in, but then I take a long breath out. Almost like I'm deflating my body, and as I deflate, I feel the weight of my body again. I feel grounded in it rather than caught up here in my head and what's going on up here. I'm back into my body. So we're going to try this. When I do deep breathing, I don't know, I've noticed this habit of mine. I'll start out with one deep breath in the nose and out the mouth. And then once I kind of get that almost like sigh out, I start to do more of deep breathing in and out of my nose. So let's play with that. So if you can just, if you want to let your eyes close, we're just going to take like a couple of deep breaths. But what I'd like to invite you to do is, with each breath that you take, just give yourself a second in between each breath to notice how you feel in your mind and in your body. So let's try that. So as you're kind of continuing your breath, when I do this, I actually start to slow my speech down too. Um, and it's really, and just something that I want to bring up is when we're doing deep breathing, like I can usually hear the out breath, whether that's through my nose or my mouth. I can hear it, even if it's subtle. It's just kind of a release of, in a way. So great, simple practice for implementing into your moments when you're feeling particularly those emotions that we discussed earlier. Another one is sensational breathing. I've talked about it before, but I'm going to add another layer to it. Sensational breathing is this idea of noticing a sensation in your body around a particular emotion and breathing into it. So, for example, when I feel anxious, I get tightness in my belly. I breathe into my belly. So I'm closing my eyes and I'm picturing the breath going into my belly and then breathing out of my belly. And what this does is it acknowledges the physical experiences with an emotion or in a situation, but it doesn't. It helps us just kind of be with it rather than trying to fight it or ignore it, suppress it, whatever. And so another layer I'm going to add to this is what we call anchor words. It's words that we speak in our mind as we're breathing. So as we breathe in, you can say words like relax or calm. And as breathing out, we're just letting go of a little bit of a release of this emotion. So letting go of anxiety. So what that looks like for me is I breathe in, relax to my belly, and I breathe out anxiety. Now I can't speak and breathe at the same time, but what it's doing is I'm saying those words in my head. So what I'd like to invite you to do is do this practice just with a couple of breaths. I bet some of you are feeling tension right now, either in your jaw, or your back, or your bottom, or I don't know, wherever you're feeling the tension, your shoulders. I want you to notice where you're feeling tension. Can you just let go of it and then practice sensational breathing? So breathing into that body part, relax or calm, and breathing out tension. So breathing in, relax or calm to that body part, and breathing out tension. And do that for 2 breaths. And what happens here when we do this is we're just, acknowledging and relaxing with what is, okay, and giving ourselves a break. The last practice that I want to talk to you about is setting intentions. Um, One of my favorite quotes is kind of why I want to talk about sensational breathing. So, why I want to talk about setting intentions. So, setting intentions is so important because this very quote right here, it says, words bring the essence of things into our beings. And we're not just talking about words that we say, we're talking about words that we think as well. So, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the stories that we tell ourselves. They can be dangerous. And what I mean by the stories that we tell ourselves is how we interpret or make sense of events that happen. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're neutral, and sometimes they can be dangerous. How we interpret or make sense of something. And we choose this. Maybe we don't know that we do, but we do. And we could have a whole session on the power of stories and what the things that we tell ourselves, but we're not. And the reasons we do this is to feel heard, to be right, to prove others wrong, many other reasons, maybe even how we were brought up. And we're always trying to make meaning of something. However, sometimes when we make meaning mindlessly without thinking about what we're doing, when we're caught up in an emotion, we tend to make things bigger than they actually are. This is the idea of the actual experience that I was speaking about earlier, answering Kira's question, to our add-ons, how we just add on more and more things to it. Well, this always happens. Well, the last time this happened, I did this. Well, the last time this happened, he or she did this. We just keep getting bigger and bigger rather than thinking, okay, I had an argument. I feel angry about it, and trying to kind of slow your process down so that you can think a little more clearly. And this is mind control, and it can be really hard to do, but what I'm inviting here is just a way to be mindful about how we think and train our minds to focus on empowering thoughts and stories in place of draining and depleting ones. So one way we can manage this and create calm is with a proactive, that means ahead of time strategy for called setting intentions. The proactive happens before. It's helpful during a difficult or stressful situation. And so what setting intentions does is it helps your mind, it tells your mind what to look for in a situation. And this practice gets you prepared and focused, and can even replace a sense of chaos. It's such a magical thing to do, and it's not goal setting. It's more gentle than that. It's about how you show up for yourself and others, about how you show up. It's how you choose to be and what you can achieve. It's not about what you can achieve. That's goal setting. This is about how you show up, particularly when something's difficult. So our last couple of minutes is we're going to try this, and we're going to have to do this quick because we're at like 45, 46 minutes at this point. And so I want to be able to, I want you to get the practice. So we're kind of at the tail end of our day today. So here's what I'd like to invite. This is a 5-step process. I strongly encourage this practice. You're about to go on spring break. You may not have any particularly stressful situations, or maybe you are if you're not going anywhere, because I don't know a lot of people who are. And so maybe this would be helpful every morning to try, or right before an event that might cause stress or anxiety. This is what it's so great for. It is so great. So here's what I'd like you to do for today or tomorrow. I want you to step 1. I want you to think about a time in your day today or tomorrow that you anticipate might be difficult, and please write it down. Yeah, you can take pictures with your phone. It'll also be a video recorded. But yes, please take a picture of it. I cannot stress how important this is. You'll be amazed if you do it. So please write down a time in your day today or tomorrow that you're going to anticipate a difficult situation. Maybe it's a Zoom meeting with your school, or a particular situation with students or your own kids or your partner, spouse, whatever. Write it down. I'm writing it down too. Okay, I'm going to give you examples of mine as I go. And I'm very passionate about statements. You can see at the bottom, you kind of see at the bottom like a ticker of a sentence stem. I'm very passionate about these, putting into your head how to say these things to yourself. My particular event is doing reading time and writing about reading with my 7-year-old son, Aaron, because every day it's a chore. And so that's my difficult time, because I lose my patience every time. Step 2, what emotions arise in this time? What does it sound like, and what does it look like? So you can always refer back to the emotions you spoke on earlier in your playlist if that's something that comes up. But please write down what emotions happen. All right, so I'm going to be fully honest with you about my whole experience here. So I'm going to walk you, because I want you to know that I struggle too. So how I did step 2 was I noticed that I'm frustrated and controlling when I'm doing reading about writing with my son. And what frustration looks like is my heart beats fast and my voice gets mean and authoritative. And controlling looks like I tell him to listen to me. You will listen to me. Listen to me. You're not listening to me. That's what I look like. Okay, so full disclosure. I can't see anybody's faces, so I have no idea what you're thinking about my story. I can see a couple of people's faces, actually. Benjamin, Holly, and Teresa, I've seen you this whole time, so you've been my lovely grounding faces. Okay, so step 3, what works in this situation and what could work? So thinking about what, if this situation has not happened to you yet, then you would anticipate what could it look like to have a positive experience through this difficult time. Or if in the past you've done something, for example, with my son, Aaron, I have tried to be patient and I have said, hey, why don't you go take a break for a second and let me think about what's going on here. So write that down. I'm going to keep going because I'm going to, you could just kind of work through the process as I go. You can see the steps. So step 4 is what actions, this is your last final step. Like, what actions could I take to create calm in this situation? So if I'm very clear about my situation with my son, Aaron, I'm very clear on the fact that I'm controlling. And I tell him that I want him to listen to me. What he wants is for me to listen to him. Because I tell him, you're not doing your graphic organizer right. He's like, this is how I know how to do it. I'm like, I want to take you deeper. He's like, I know what I'm doing. Please let me talk to you about what I want to do. No, you need to listen to me first. What I'm hearing as I replay that effectively in my head is that he wants me to listen. So what actions could I create calm in the situation? I'm going to say, okay, Aaron, I'm going to really, truly, actively, not fake listen, actively listen to him. And I'm going to take a breath while I'm actively listening. Okay. Because this is his learning, not mine. Okay. So that's my action. So you write yours down, or maybe you already did while I was talking the whole time. So actions could be active listening, not fake listening, but really listening to understand, like seeking to understand. It could be taking a break. It could be taking a breath. It could be just naming your emotion. Whatever it could be, if you feel like you get judgmental over someone that maybe you have issues with, I'm going to try and not be judgmental. I'm going to try not to assume what they are trying to say. I'm going to actively listen. These are all kind of tools that you could possibly use as action steps. All right, so the last thing that you're going to do, please write it down, because wherever this is going to be supportive to you, you need to take this piece of paper with you. Or remind yourself on your phone, hey, if you have a Zoom meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow and you know you're about to have to engage with somebody that frustrates you, Siri, remind me at 9:55 a.m. and then read your sentence to Siri, or have the piece of paper. Do not mistake what I'm saying to you as some loosey-goosey. It works. I feel like I need to sell this as a product. All right. Write your statement down. So mine would say, I feel frustrated and controlling because I want Aaron to do the things I want him to do the way I want him to do it. I would put this less wording. And I will actively listen and take a breath when that happens. Okay, so that's the example that I'm giving you. So please write down the statement with your fill in the blank intention statement. Nope, or not. All right, so as you're writing the statement, I want to end with this. With this practice, we become open to new ideas when we set intentions. We're less judgmental. We're more open to other people's perspectives. We're even more willing to change our minds sometimes when we should, or just validation. And it also just makes us feel prepared, because sometimes when things catch us off guard, that's when we're most reactive. And you might stray from your intention. Okay. So when this moment comes and you stray from the intention, that's okay. This takes time and practice, but it can help reframe your intention when you are on some other tangent in thinking or reactivity. Just come back to that sentence, put it somewhere you can see it. And your mind, people, listen to me when I tell you this, your mind wants instructions, clear, explicit ones. It wants to know what you need and want from it. So give it that gift. And remember, you can do this at the beginning of every day. Set an intention just for your day, or, maybe before an event. And so just to kind of recap on the 3 strategies that I have kind of invited for you today: the deep breathing, the sensational breathing with the anchor words. So breathing in, relax, or letting go, or calm, and breathing out whatever emotion you're carrying in that part of your body. And then setting intentions as a proactive tool. Play with them, play with one. These will create spaces for calm. And the more you do this, the more you'll feel a little bit of harmony in your life. And we're going to end with 3 breaths, and then we're going to invite a Q&A session. And this is a part where you can peace out if you'd like, after we take our 3 breaths, of course. And what we will probably do is send out a message about what will come after spring break if you're interested in continuing this series. Um, but we're going to end with 3 breaths. And also, I want to end with telling you thank you for taking the time to be in this moment. And I really hope that you carry some of this wisdom with you and practice with you into spring break, caring for yourself. And I know there's some questions that were on the chat box. So those of you who ask questions, just stick around and I'll answer them because I've been writing them down. And so let's just kind of put our pencils down or whatever is in your hand, and let's just take 3 breaths. I'm going to ring the bell to end us, and just listen to the sound of the bell for as long as you can. And then when that sound is gone, you can invite 3 breaths before we move on. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Again, if you'd like to